Good morning, all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari. So today we are going to discuss the important articles as always. So firstly, the first article, it is regarding the appointment of a transgender as a High Court judge. But we see that government has objected to the proposal, citing that the person who's Kirpal's, his relationship with Swiss national and possibility of bias because of his advocacy for LGBTQ rights. So that is what the government concerns are. And Supreme Court has to say that expression of views by a candidate does not disentitle him to hold a constitutional office. So that is what the Supreme Court has to say. So Supreme Court has recommended the appointment of a transgender as a High Court judge. Now we see that talking about the India-Pakistan relations. So India says that obviously we also desire normal neighborly relation with Pakistan in an atmosphere that is free of violence, that is not supporting terrorism. And looking further, so DCW chief molested and dragged by a car. So if she is not safe in Delhi, so you can imagine how unsafe Delhi is for other women if she can get molested in public. Then we see that NGOs, they flag generalized surveillance by the center. So generalized surveillance of Indian citizens is being done by the center, and the Internet Service Providers Association of India had said that the central government has ordered them to provide all the traffic, that is information, which goes through the internet to their centralized monitoring system. And the kind of the centralized monitoring is taking place through three systems that are controlled by the government, that is the centralized monitoring system, CMS, then we have Netra and the NatGrid. So these are the systems through which we can say government is doing these surveillance activities, and the union government has insisted that it uses these systems with safeguards and it follows the due process. So that is there. And we have discussed this thing that firstly what is important for us to know is that the Parasnath hill, it is there in Jharkhand. So basically more of tourism activities they were promoted here. So the tribal people and the Jain community, they have protested against promoting more of tourism here because they feel that it will destroy their basically the temples or the pilgrimage sites that they have there. And also the Santhal community and the Jains, they are also opposing each other, claiming their own, we can say, religious beliefs. So that is also another, we can say, issue that is emerged out of it. Coming to the editorials, so in this article, we'll be analyzing what are the shortcomings of the POXO Act since it completes 10 years of implementation. So it was implemented on November 14, 2012, when India ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1992. So a significant feature of this act is that it is gender neutral. So this is the very most important thing that is there. Secondly, there is sufficient general awareness now in the people about reporting the cases of sexual exploitation of children, not only by individuals, but also by the institutions. And also non-reporting these cases has been made a offense under this POXO Act. So reporting, we can say awareness has been more widespread now, and even if you fail to report or you are willingly not going ahead and reporting a case, even that is an offense under the POXO Act. And the storage of child pornography material has been made a new offense. Then further, the offense of sexual assault has been defined in explicit terms under this act, unlike when we talk about the definition of outraging the modesty of a woman in the Indian Penal Code. So outraging the modesty of a woman, obviously there are several interpretations how you can interpret this phrase, but when we talk about sexual assault, so that has been explicitly defined in this POXO Act. Now we'll be looking at some of the challenges or why the act has not been effectively implemented and performed up to the mark. So firstly, we see that a large part of the investigation of the offenses under this act, it is still guided by the Code of Criminal Procedure. And we know that it has been like implemented since like around the 19th century. And next up, the POXO Act, it provides for recording the statement of the affected child by a woman sub-inspector at the child's residence or the place of voice. But it is practically impossible to comply with this provision because the number of women in the police force is just 10%. So many police stations, they hardly have any women staff. So how can you, implement this provision when we have like merely low number of women staff in the police? And also Supreme Court judgment, that is Safi Mohammed under the state of Himachal Pradesh of 2018, it says that that the verdict was that capturing and preserving the scene of crime of heinous offenses should be done using the audio and video means. But what we see is that there is lack of proper infrastructure to ensure the integrity of the electronic evidence, and admissibility of the evidence recorded using any audio or video means will always remain a challenge because we lack on the infrastructure front and ensuring that the integrity of the electronic evidence is maintained. Secondly, the medical examination of the prosecutorist is conducted according to the provisions of the CRPC. However, the medical examination of a girl child, it is conducted by a female doctor, and even so, and as observed by the Supreme Court of India also, that there are still instances where the banned two-finger test is still in use. And thirdly, though the age of determination of a juvenile delinquent is guided by the Juvenile Justice Act, but no such provision exists under the POXO Act for the juvenile victims. And in absence of any change in the law or even the specific direction, so the investigating officers, they continue to rely on the date of birth recorded in the school as an evidence to record the age of the accused person. And age estimation based on the medical opinion, it is generally so wide in scope that in most cases, even if the accused, they are minor, they are proved to be major. So this is one of the major drawbacks. And talking about the period of investigation, so the time mandated to complete the investigation of rape, that too as per CRPC, and there's no mention about the time period of investigation in the POXO Act. However, a CRPC mentioned that it should be completed in 2 months. So the focus shifts it shifts on completion of the investigation in 2 months, irrespective of its quality. So the focus is that it should be completed within 2 months, no matter what is the quality. So under all these circumstances, the expected increase in the conviction rate is obviously likely to be very low, and therefore it's time that there is a review of the way POXO Act is implemented and how it is functioning at the ground level, and see how far it has helped the victims of the sexual exploitation and what more needs to be done to ensure justice. So all these drawbacks and observations, they need to be taken into account so that we provide justice to the victims who fall under this act. Then talking about the National Export Cooperative Society, so it is going to trade the nanofertilizers and dairy products in 3 months. And the National Export Cooperative Society it was like recently formulated by the cabinet on January 11th. So it is basically when we talk about who are the promoters of this cooperative society. So it includes the Indian Farmers Fertilizer Cooperative Limited, the Krishak Bharti Cooperative Limited, then we have NAFED, then we have Amul, NCDC. So all these are the promoters of the society, and they'll be contributing 100 crore rupees each to it. And the society, it will have an authorized share capital of rupees 2,000 crores with the area of operation all over the country, and its its registered office is going to be in Delhi. And the society, it is expected to enhance the scale and the volume of exports, and it will also benefit and support the smallest of the farmer or the artisan who has a good product, but they do not have, we can say, the right platform to access. So that's how it is going to support the marginalized farmers, we can say. And as we were talking about Supreme Court recommending the name of a transgender for appointment as a high court judge. So it says that all citizens have the right to free speech and expression under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A of the Constitution, but expression of the views of a candidate, it does not disentitle him to hold a constitutional office so long as the person proposed for the judgeship, he's a person of competence, merit, and integrity. So that is there, and let's see whether government is going to approve it or not. And we see women officers in command, they are going to be soon, and we can say around 244 of them, they are being considered by the army for promotion from the rank of lieutenant colonel to colonel against 108 vacancies, and their selection is obviously expected to ensure that there is gender parity in the armed forces. So this is in the backdrop of the Supreme Court judgment in 2021, which upheld and basically which upheld the judgment granting permanent commission and command posting to women officers in all arms and services other than the combat roles. So women, they are soon going to be promoted, and definitely this is a step which is promoting gender equality, gender balance when we talk about the armed forces. Then Russia, it warns that if escalation, it warns of more escalation if West, they supplies more arms to Ukraine. And on the other side, you can see the article is talking about that Ukraine, it is urging the Western allies to send more tanks. So Russia is basically issuing another warning that it might lead to more escalation if more arms are supplied to Ukraine. And talking about the Prime Minister of New Zealand, so she says that I am a human being and we give as much as we can for as long we can, and then it's time. So she says that she'll be resigning, and so basically, she said that it is not enough in the tank, basically, or we can say of exaggeration. So on human grounds, she says that now she'll be resigning from the post of prime minister, and that is there. So South Africa is going to hold drills with Russia and China, and it is named as MOSI, which means smoke in the Tswana language. And South Africa, which is resisted taking sides following the Russia-Ukraine war. So it is going to hold a joint maritime drills with Russia and China. And RBI says that the monetary policy's main objective is to hold the inflation within the mandated tolerance band and guide it towards the medium-term target of 4% by 2024. So that is going to be the main focus for RBI. Obviously, we cannot compromise on growth also. So balance between these two is important. And talking about India's gold exports, so there's a greater need for the Indian gold jewelry exporters to develop new markets, as nearly 70% of our gold exports, they are just, we can say they're just exported to 5 countries. That is as per a report by the World Gold Council. So you can find out more about it. And India's gold market has been grappling with numerous regulatory changes and shifting consumer behavior. And as we know that South India continues to dominate the gold jewelry consumption, accounting for 40% of the country's total jewelry demand. And now we'll move to Financial Express. So in Financial Express, there is no Supreme Court relief for the Google on the Competition Commission of India's order. So it will need to uninstall all the preloaded apps on the Android phones and let the users select the search engine of their own choice and go ahead with their own choice, obviously. So it will also have to deposit 10% of the penalty that has been levied on it. So no relief for Google. And talking about FAME scheme. So it is basically for the promotion, basically faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. So we see that government has blocked the subsidy amount for the electric two-wheelers, and the amount it now crosses rupees 1,000 crores, because government is looking into around 18 companies to see if they have rightfully claimed the subsidies or not. So for this reason, the government has blocked the subsidy amount, and obviously this has impacted the production and the dispatches to dealers in the month of December and January. So the investigation, or we can say inspection, is going on regarding this. And talking about the spike in wheat prices, so this is regarding cereal inflation. So government, it acknowledges that the prices of wheat is rising, and to curb the rise in prices, so government would be releasing wheat from the Food Corporation of India's stock in the open market, so that there is more supply and prices come down. And FCI, it had earlier stopped the sale of wheat in the open market from its stock for the first time in more than a decade, in view of a sharp drop in the procurement. So the procurement of wheat has fallen, and we see that there is lower production, but there is higher global demand. So that is driving the prices of wheat up. And FCI's procurement in 2022-23 marketing season, it fell by more than 56%. So it was, we can say, around 18.8 million ton against 43.3 million ton. So there's low production and high demand. So demand and supply mismatch, which led to, or which is causing higher prices for wheat. Then we'll move to the editorial. So, okay, so former RBI Governor, Mr. Raghurajam, so has to say that the lower middle class is recovering, and it obviously had a bad pandemic. So some have lost their jobs, and the small and the medium enterprises, they do not do so well, but they are now coming back as situation has, we can say, it has normalized. Now we're talking about the energy efficiency. So India has made giant strides in energy efficiency and conservation in the last few years at the national level. So the country faces the daunting challenge of providing cost-effective, low carbon energy and complementing it with energy efficient policies, designs, and technologies. So everything is being written very beautifully in single sentence, so you can note it down. And although India is, it is soon going to be the largest populous country in the world, so its carbon footprint is less than 5%. Our per capita carbon dioxide emissions, they are around 40% of the global average. And obviously, when we talk about the per capita carbon footprint, even that is low when we compare it with the developed countries. So our prime minister, he launched the life initiative. So basically the energy conservation and the efficiency ethos, they are at the heart of the prime minister's call for the lifestyle for environment. So our lifestyle needs to change in a manner that we promote green energy or sustainable and efficient energy. And we must also make smart investments in green jobs, in sustainable infrastructure that will entail investing in skill development and training the youth to prepare them for mitigating the impact of climate change and helping build climate resilient infrastructure. So here the key word is climate resilient infrastructure, and we need more investments for skilling the youth and prepare them for mitigating the impact of climate change. So a country's priority to provide thermal comfort for all will require policy, technological, and behavioral aspects working cohesively with each other to promote the manufacturing and development of the most energy efficient technologies. So here we need to transform and work upon working like very closely when we talk about changing the micro level behavioral aspects. And as per the India's cooling action plan, by 2037, the demand for cooling is likely to be 8 times more than the current levels. So it is going to shoot a very sharply. And at the macro level, when we talk about at the national level, so promoting energy efficiency in mining, in forestry, and transportation sectors will lead to lower embodied carbon in the commercial and the residential buildings. So further, energy storage systems, they must be increasingly relied upon to reduce the dependence on grid and lowering the carbon emissions. So that is also one of the steps, that focusing more upon energy storage systems. And also talking about several other steps taken by the government. So we have the National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency under the National Action Plan on Climate Change, and that has pegged the total energy savings of approximately 26 million tons of oil equivalent by March 2023. So thereby cutting 70 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions. So we need a concerted effort by individuals and the businesses that can play a crucial role in facilitating the gradual transition towards the nation's long-term objectives of becoming an energy efficient economy. And as they say, every drop in the ocean counts. So every small and single step counts when we talk about energy transition, and nothing is more pivotal than preserving the planet. And when we look at the funds that are being raised by the green bonds, so even they have witnessed a drop. So since the name is green, so obviously the funds, the money that is raised through green bonds, they are meant for investments in green infrastructural projects, or we can say in green projects. So that is it. I guess there is one more article. Okay, so here we're talking about the bad loans. So the non-performing assets. So we see the bank's net NPAs ratio, it fell to 10-year low of 1.3% as on September 30th. So it has touched its 10-year low of 1.3%. And that is not because of, we can say, the recovery of the bad loans, but it is because the banks, they have written down off the bad loans from their balance sheets to the tune of rupees 1.44 trillion in 2017-18. So they have been able to significantly clean up their balance sheets by writing down off the bad loans. And in this graph, you can see when we look at the ratio of the risk-weighted assets to the total assets, that has declined. So this is a positive development, that this is declining. And in this graph, we look at the GNPA ratio of the scheduled commercial banks, so the gross non-performing assets ratio. So for the wholesale sector, which is equivalent or more than rupees 5 crore. So for all the three sectors, wholesale, retail, and their total, it is declining. And that is there. So it is like repeat of the big bad loan cycle for banks is unlikely. And let's hope that obviously this should happen. And so that's all for today. Thank you for joining Ansarkari. I hope you've understood all the key points that we discussed today, and you can go ahead and go through the PDF. So you'll find the link in the description box. And do not forget to subscribe to Ansarkari, hit the like button, share this video as much as possible. Thank you again for joining us.